It is Sunday, September 21st, and the Trump administration striking a third alleged Venezuelan drug boat. Nicolas Maduro, president of Venezuela, responding, declaring the U.S. has entered into undeclared war against his country. China also responding, warning the U.S. to stop attacking its Venezuelan ally or else. Trump declaring war on the drug cartels. Or is he? Is this really about the cartels? I don't think so. We'll show you.
The war on narco-terrorists continues, and President Trump striking another drug boat, killing 3 narco-terrorists. President Trump putting on the video on his Truth Social.
President Trump authorizing his Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to bomb a third Venezuelan drug boat in international waters this week. 3 alleged narco-terrorists eliminated in this airstrike. Trump posting on Truth Social, on my orders, the Secretary of War ordered a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel affiliated with a designated terror organization conducting narco-trafficking in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility. Intel confirming the vessel was trafficking illicit narcotics and was transiting along a known narco-trafficking passage en route to poison Americans. The strike killing 3 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel, which was in international waters. That's important. We'll explain in a minute why. No U.S. forces were harmed in this strike. Stop selling fentanyl, narcotics, and illegal drugs in America and committing violence and terror against Americans. This was the 3rd lethal U.S. military strike against Venezuelan citizens in the last month. Prior strikes already killing 14 other people. So 17 Venezuelans killed in total so far over the last month, allegedly linked to vessels originating from Venezuela. Human rights groups now raising serious questions about whether these are extrajudicial killings. Human Rights Watch releasing a statement saying the U.S. in all 3 of these strikes have failed to warn or halt the moving vessels before resulting in military force, something that they say is illegal. Venezuela's defense minister releasing a statement yesterday saying it is an undeclared war, and you could already see how people, whether or not they are drug traffickers, have been executed in the Caribbean Sea. Executed, he says, without a right to defense. The United Nations also weighing in on this. The UN, which has been heavily influenced in recent years by China, saying the U.S. is breaking international law by striking these vessels. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, not having any of that, responding by saying this. Watch.
Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug trade. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about 1.5 years ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, posting a response to his YouTube channel this week before YouTube quietly disappeared the account. Maduro's YouTube channel no longer exists on the platform. Yesterday, the South China Morning Post reporting that China has pledged unconditional support for Caracas, saying Beijing stands in solidarity with Venezuela. China then issuing a final warning, they said, following this third strike on Venezuela. Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian releasing this official statement from Beijing saying Venezuela has the right to choose its allies, its partners independently, and that coercion and bullying won't work in separating our close ties with Caracas. What exactly is this all about? Everyone knows the drug cartels are primarily based out of Colombia and Mexico, both U.S. allies. Why is Trump targeting Venezuela? Maduro claims U.S. foreign policy is hoping for some type of military confrontation that they'll respond to these attacks, and then Trump can use that as justification for regime change. So far, Venezuela's resisted the urge to respond. So you see what's happening here, okay? We're not striking these vessels on Venezuelan soil or in Venezuelan waters. All three of these strikes were in international waters. So if Venezuela was to respond, that would technically be an unprovoked attack, and we'd be justified to respond with the full force of the U.S. military. Is that what's happening here? Well, yesterday, President Trump posting again on Truth Social, posting another threat to Maduro saying, "We want Venezuela to immediately accept all of the prisoners back and people from mental institutions, which includes the worst in the world insane asylums that Venezuelan leadership has forced into the United States. Thousands of people have been badly hurt and even killed by these monsters. Get them the hell out of our country right now, or the price you pay will be incalculable." Clearly, this is about way more than crushing the cartels. U.S. foreign policy strategy, dating back decades, has been to take Venezuela back from the axis of evil. Ever since the 90s, when Hugo Chavez took power, ousting the U.S. allied government, for decades, the U.S. and Venezuela were extremely close allies. We had robust trade, investment, cooperation. Venezuela was a key oil supplier to the U.S. Then in 1998, all of that changed. Think about this. Venezuela has some of the largest oil reserves on the planet, more reserves than even Saudi Arabia. In 1998, all of that disappeared. Then what happened a few years later? We invaded Iraq. I wonder why. Today, guess who the largest Venezuela oil importer is? Not the U.S., it's China. Over 500,000 barrels a day of Venezuelan heavy crude is exported from Venezuela to China. That's a lot of oil, a huge oil supplier for China. All of this, the Trump administration wants to change. During Trump's first term, during Trump 1.0, they tried overthrowing Maduro using soft power, a soft coup d'etat, using Juan Guaido, who was an assemblyman in Venezuela in 2019. The United States named him as the legitimate president of Venezuela based on this constitutional challenge to Maduro. Huge effort went into this. Trump even had Guaido attend his State of the Union in 2019. Remember this?
We are supporting the hopes of Cubans, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans to restore democracy. The United States is leading a 59-nation diplomatic coalition against the socialist dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro. Maduro is an illegitimate ruler, a tyrant who brutalizes his people, but Maduro's grip on tyranny will be smashed and broken. Here this evening is a very brave man who carries with him the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of all Venezuelans. Joining us in the gallery is the true and legitimate president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido. Mr. President, please take this message back to your homeland.
So let's be clear, folks. This is a long-term plan that we're witnessing here, strategic policy of the United States, and it's now in overdrive due to Trump's trade war with China. Should Trump cut off Venezuelan oil to China, it would give us a ton more leverage, and even more importantly, the way for rare earth metals and gold. China currently controls 90% of the world's rare earth metals and has been quietly accumulating huge quantities of gold. Venezuela has massive, massive gold reserves, copper reserves. And at the moment, China has full access to them.
So the U.S. government has been trying to strangle the Venezuelan economy. It started with sanctions in 2017 that prevented essentially the country from accessing international capital markets and the oil company from restructuring its loans. That put Venezuela into a hyperinflation. That was the utter collapse. Oil earnings plummeted. The earnings that are used to buy food and medicine collapsed. That's when the social humanitarian crisis went spiraling out of control. And then in this year is with this idea, very naive, very stupid in my view, that there would be this self-proclaimed president, which was all choreographed with the United States very, very closely. Another round of even tighter sanctions, essentially confiscating the earnings and the assets of the Venezuelan government took place. Now Venezuela is in complete, utter catastrophe. A lot of it brought on by the United States deliberately, creating massive, massive suffering.
All of this very important, especially for us normal folk. Just mere days ago, on September 17th, the U.S. Federal Reserve announcing a new rate cut. Finally, a 25 basis point cut, and the board forecasting at least 2 more cuts this year. What happens when the Fed cuts the night rate? It artificially devalues the dollar, something the Trump econ team has been trying to supercharge for 8 months now. Investors, the market gobbling up hard assets right now, tangible assets like gold, like value-based companies. This is history unfolding in front of our eyes with rate cuts with China and Russia's gold development. A lot is about to change. Goldman Sachs just issuing a comprehensive report that long gold is a high conviction trade, and history was made when gold finally took out its 1980 inflation-adjusted record high in USD terms. For the first time since Goldman Sachs began questioning and surveying, gold is the #1 trade. Russia and China have been actively building independent gold markets. China has opened its first offshore gold vault in Hong Kong, enabling trade partners with positive yuan balances to convert directly into gold via the Shanghai Gold Exchange, bypassing the US dollar completely. All of this playing into what's likely happening down in Venezuela. All right, that wraps up the news portion of this video. Now let me tell you about the sponsor for today, which ties into everything we've been talking about, a consequential gold copper exploration and development opportunity on U.S. soil. U.S. GoldMining Inc., ticker USGO on the NASDAQ. The last major rally into all-time highs for gold, silver, and gold stocks occurred between 2009 and 2011, well before this new generation of investors were even of age. Tailwinds from Washington are exactly the opposite of what they were in the past 30 years. They're productive and constructive towards mining and positively contributing towards the overall rally in mining stocks, which is why I'm looking at and liking U.S. GoldMining, trading on the NASDAQ with the symbol USGO. Alaska has been important for the Trump administration. The governor of Alaska has visited U.S. GoldMining's project and its estimated mineral resource. Whistler is the closest large undeveloped gold copper exploration project to the main population center of Anchorage. Trump also issuing an executive order on day 1 on his presidency called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential, again, on day 1 of his administration. They issued a second executive order called Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. The executive order directing government agencies to immediate action to facilitate domestic mineral production to the maximum extent possible, including copper and gold. In addition to federal support at the state level couldn't be stronger. Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy is a strong proponent of economic growth and the infrastructure to support mining in his state, and he's personally visited U.S. GoldMining, this project himself, along with support from the governor. The project's also been visited by U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski. In April 2023, U.S. GoldMining went public with the symbol USGO on the NASDAQ for $10 a share. The gold price then was just below $2,000 per ounce. Today, gold price has climbed above $3,500 per ounce, and the stock is currently trading at or below its IPO levels. The Whistler Project mineral resource estimate comprises 294 million tons MT at 0.68 grams per ton gold equivalent for 6.48 million ounces gold equivalent indicated, plus 198 MT at 0.65 grams per ton gold equivalent for 4.16 million ounces gold equivalent inferred. You should review U.S. GoldMining's latest annual report on Form 10-K and the technical report summary incorporated in it for information on the project and the mineral resource estimate, but right now, U.S. GoldMining's share price and its market cap are lower than in April 2023 when it was spun off and went public. So while other factors can impact stock performance, I think this supports a further look. Here's where this also gets even more interesting, in my view. The company's ownership structure is very unique. Take a look at this. 78% of the outstanding shares are held by the parent company, one shareholder controlling 78% of the shares. Another 4.5% is held by management and insiders. So that's over 80% of the shares tightly held. This is exactly what I like seeing. So check this out. We just saw a historic Fed rate cut cycle commence, right? Gold's also at an all-time high. Plus, the Trump administration has issued 2 executive orders on Alaska, and the state's now moving forward with a road system to connect this Whistler project with Anchorage. That's huge in my opinion. Now the company's most important moment since inception has arrived. U.S. GoldMining has begun the process of an initial economic assessment, also known as a PEA, which stands for Preliminary Economic Assessment. This study is a preliminary review of economic factors, and the timing couldn't be any better, with gold above $3,600 an ounce and copper at $4.50 a pound. So look, do your own extensive research on U.S. GoldMining. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.